So today we're going to be talking about level of measurement and why level of measurement is so important. And it is actually one of the most important things that we need to attend to, because the way that we measure constructs directly informs the type of statistic that we will utilize to assess that relationship. There are four different levels of measurement. They are nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So let's start with the first one, nominal. A nominal level of measurement is for your categorical variables. So nominal meaning there's no ordered difference between them, right? One nominal variable could be city of origin, so where people are from. We may assign those cities numbers, but the numbers aren't meaningful in any way. It's just a way for whatever software you're using. It's just a way for whatever software we're using to distinguish between those different cities, but they're not ordered in any particular way. The way that this is frequently reported in a research paper, we may be looking at gender identity of participants or race or ethnicity of participants. We may report the overall numbers that are in each of those categories, but they're not organized in any meaningful way. You'll notice that these levels of measurement get increasingly ordered as we go along, from nominal to ordinal to interval to ratio. The second level of measurement we're going to look at is an ordinal scale. Ordinal scales are arranged in a particular order, but we don't know the differences between 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 or 3 and 4. So if I challenged everybody watching right now to a race, we may finish first, second, third, fourth, and collect that data, but we don't know the difference between those scores. We know one person finished first, somebody finished second, somebody finished third, but we don't know the actual intervals between those. So it could be something like ordering your top favorite TV shows from 1 to 5, right? So an ordinal variable, there is some order to the categories, but we don't necessarily know the differences between those categories. The next level of measurement is an interval scale. So an interval scale has ordered categories, but we know the differences between those categories, and those intervals are all the same. So if you think of an attitudinal scale or a liking scale measured from 1 to 5 on how much you like cats, some disciplines will treat that scale as an interval scale, assuming that the difference between a 1 and a 2 is the same as the difference between a 4 and a 5, and that scale is ordered, and we know that the intervals between each category are the same. Some disciplines treat this type of scale as an ordinal scale, saying there's no way for us to know if the difference between a 1 and a 2 is the same as the difference between a 4 and a 5. So depending on what discipline you're in, you may treat a scale like this as an interval scale or as an ordinal scale. Very often in communication, we treat this as an interval scale, even though technically it may be an ordinal scale. The last level of measurement is a ratio scale. So a ratio scale has ordered categories. We assume that the differences between those categories are equal, but there's two main differences between an interval scale and a ratio scale. The other meaningful difference in a ratio scale, that you can form meaningful fractions. So 4 is twice as much as 2. Thinking about this from the example of our siblings, right? 4 siblings is twice as much as 2 siblings. If we were going back to our liking scale, scoring 4 on the liking scale isn't necessarily twice as much liking as scoring 2. Two big differences between a ratio scale and an interval scale. Number one, a ratio scale gives us an absolute 0 point, conveying the absence of something. And number two, you can form meaningful fractions in a ratio scale. So food for thought. We have multiple different indicators for how to assess temperature. We have a Fahrenheit scale, a Celsius scale, a Kelvin scale. What level of measurement do you think each scale is? Are they interval or are they ratio? To close things up, level of measurement is extremely important because the statistical test we use is directly informed by the level of measurement of our constructs.